All right, let's get her going.
He's the tallest man on the radio, so sit right back and enjoy the show. Flying through the air like a ballistic missile. Here's your host, Ben Kissel.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to Ben Kissel Politics, the greatest political podcast going today. I am Ben Kissel on Instagram at Ben Kissel1, joined by Kyle Plouffe.
Hey.
At Kyle Plouffe. Check him out. Also, watch on Patreon Live, patreon.com/diebud. We also now have video on Spotify. Let's go. Can't wait for that. Thank you, Kyle, for setting all that up. Shoot us an email, okbudpod@gmail.com. I got an email story that somebody sent me that we're going to have a little debate over, so I want to hear from the chat. Don't let me down, chat. All right, before we get to that and a whole bunch of other stuff, let's start with airport security, the wonderful world of airport security.
Weird, wild stuff.
Weird and wild stuff. Well, it turns out every plane is about to explode.
Oh.
Why? Because we don't got to take our shoes off anymore. It's almost like 2 decades of bullshit for nothing has officially come to an end. Why? Nobody knows. They just decided today is the day that TSA no longer wants to smell the stinky fromage on the bottom of our heel as we take off our shoes in order to pay top dollar to board a plane and be treated like a piece of human trash. So maybe this is the smallest thing they could do to make air travel slightly more comfortable for the consumer.
Yeah, I would just go in with slides and socks on every time because it's just easier to kick them off.
Sure. Yeah, if you want, not everyone's trash.
Yeah.
Not everyone wants to go in there looking like they just got out of prison.
Yeah.
But some people do. I never did the TSA pre-check because, you're not going to get my information.
Hell no.
But then because I didn't do that, I had to do clear because I was running late at the airport, and then clear is actually worse because they do a retina scan.
Yeah.
So, whatever, I'm in the system. So after nearly 2 decades, passengers going through airport security no longer have to take off their shoes. That's according to the Ice Bunny or Barbie, whatever the fuck they call this psychopath, Kristi Noem. She is the Secretary of Homeland Security. She says, effective immediately, TSA will no longer require travelers to remove their shoes when they go through security checkpoints. She says, we want to improve this travel experience, but while maintaining safety standards and making sure that we are keeping people safe. So she said safe twice.
Wow.
So that's double the amount of safe. Anyone who knows why we had to take off our shoes, raise your hand. Richard Reed,
Yep.
the shoe bomber. The man was so freaking inept, he couldn't have even jerked off in his own belly button, let alone blow up a plane. He was set up by the FBI. It was all a fake fucking situation that they created, much like the IDF does on a regular basis, because what happened was a plane went down in Queens a couple weeks after 9/11.
Yep.
No one talks about it. The official story is the engine fell off.
Yeah.
But in reality, they say that was probably a shoe bomber. So they set up Richard Reed, this Gomer-looking piece of trash. Looks like a gooner, which is what kids call today someone who constantly masturbates. They gave him a shoe that literally, it was air bomb. It was obviously a shoe. It was comical. You could see the wick that you would have to light on the outside of the shoe. They were like, go in there. They gave him the shoes, and believe it or not, they busted him. Ever since then, we've had to remove our shoes because the FBI wanted to seem like they were competent, even though, of course, they were on the front lines of allowing 9/11 to happen. Then the TSA got superpowers. There was the TSA on steroids, the last line of defense between us and running into a frickin' building. And because of that, we've been screamed at to put your shoes in the bin, put your shoes in the bin, shoes off, shoes off, shoes off. Are your shoes on? Shoes off.
I have PTSD.
Worst part of flying.
Oh, it's awful.
And those who love me, I love black women, and I don't mind being yelled at them. But there's something about the TSA that, wow, holy hell.
Make you feel real stupid.
Well, you're also paying money.
Right.
It's like I'm paying $12,000. I'm paying $1,200 to get on this freaking horrible flight that I have to fight over my seat because I chose Southwest on accident. And now I have to take my freaking shoes off. And I'm self-conscious because I never have matching socks.
Yeah.
So, apparently, that is no longer the case. This is what Noam says. Again, I always have to reiterate this. The woman who shot her dog because it couldn't hunt. Because she is a... Remove the H and put a C in there in the word hunt. She says, in those 20 years since that policy was put in place, our security technology has changed dramatically. It has evolved. TSA has changed. The Real ID compliance allows us another layer of security, knowing who's going through our checkpoints and who isn't. So a small reprieve that technology has given us is we no longer have to remove our loafers before we go sit on a flight and pray to God the person next to us isn't diabetic or isn't going to die or doesn't have to use the bathroom 1,000 times every 2 hours.
And I'll apologize as a Bostonian because the Richard Reed thing, that occurred at Boston's Logan Airport.
That's because Boston is the front lines for all. They're all there.
It is where 9/11 started.
Mm-hmm.
All the planes came out of Boston. It's really messed up.
The one time that Bostonians should have been racist.
Yeah.
And they chose to let these guys board.
Yeah. Mark Wahlberg always says, if I was on that plane, it would have ended differently.
Yeah.
Yeah, would it?
I don't know if Marky Mark was really going to do anything. He's like 5'7" soaking wet.
Yeah.
5'7", that's a weight thing. But anyway, you don't get taller or shorter if you're wetter. I mean, maybe if it was frozen and you were standing on an icicle or something.
One of those pills that get bigger in water.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. We talked about this briefly on OK Bud. Make sure to check out that show later today and throughout the week. The Jeffrey Epstein client list.
What list?
What list? This is incredible. Watching all the old footage of these cronies from the Trump administration talk about, we're going to expose the list. It's going to come out as soon as Donald Trump takes office. He's going to expose the list. Well, it turns out that they have exposed there is no list, which is obviously bullshit because then Jeffrey Epstein doesn't have a business.
Right. Why would he kill himself if he had no evidence against himself?
Exactly. Also, in the 11-hour tape that was released, they show Jeffrey Epstein being escorted into his cell. They show the security guard coming out of his cell. And then there is a missing minute, which is so ridiculous. Pam Bondi, she's the U.S. Attorney General. She has tried to explain this missing minute. She says that happens every single night because they have to reset the recording.
Oh.
Yes. So she says, we released the video showing definitively the video was not conclusive, but the evidence prior to it was showing he committed suicide. And what was that? There was a minute off the counter. Well, what we learned was the Bureau of Prisons, every night they redo the video. It's from like 1999. So every night the video is reset and every night should have the same minute missing. So we're looking for that video release as well, showing that a minute is missing every night.
Good Lord.
Oh my God. All right. So let's play a woman who has a thankless job. She took it, and everyone who's ever been a press secretary, I actually met a couple of people who were press secretaries for presidents. The gal who was the president for, who was the press secretary for Dana Perino.
Oh.
I was on her show regularly. Not a Trump fan, but of course everyone toes the line when the cameras start rolling.
Yep.
It's a thankless job, and you have to answer questions that you know have a point, and then you have to lie. But in this case, it is just so unbelievably transparent that they are not being transparent about Jeffrey Epstein and the list. This question comes from Fox News, actually. I believe this is Peter Doocy Or it's one of the Duceys.
Yeah, he looks like a Ducey relative.
Yes, he is. I believe he's the son of the other Ducey.
Okay.
So it's a couple of Duceys.
So what happened to the Epstein client list that the Attorney General said she had on her desk?
Well, I think if you go back and look at what the Attorney General said in that interview, which was on your network, on Fox News.
Got the quote.
Go ahead.
John Roberts said, DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen? And she said, it's sitting on my desk right now to review.
Wow.
Yes, she was saying the entirety of all of the paperwork, all of the paper in relation to Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. That's what the Attorney General was referring to, and I'll let her speak for that. But again, when it comes to the FBI and the Department of Justice, they are more than committed to ensuring that bad people are put behind bars. They have an operation going on right now called Summer Heat, which has our murder rate trending in the lowest direction in United States history. Their emphasis on violent crime and locking up violent criminals has led to the arrest of 14,000 violent criminals. That's a 62% increase from the same time period last year. So this Attorney General and the FBI Director are committed to putting bad people behind bars where they belong. They promised an exhaustive review. That's what they did. For any further details, I would refer you to the Department of Justice.
That literally had nothing to do with
Nope.
what they were talking about.
Also, I'm thinking John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John. Summer heat had me a blast. Summer heat happened so fast. Who is coming up with these frickin' names? Summer heat sounds like they're getting invaded by a corps of snapping jugglers.
Horny dogs.
Good God, yeah, it's Operation Summer Heat. You're gonna have a little bit of cum on your shin there. That's our dog. He's a Rottweiler.
Red Rocket.
They actually come quite a bit, just so you know. So yes, the mental gymnastics would make a Simone Biles blush. By the way, Simone Biles might have some new boobs.
Oh.
Yeah,
Wow.
There's some speculation she got a boob job.
Wow.
She may just also not be in performance shape anymore, so she doesn't have to be shredded. So maybe she's actually eating food.
Yeah,
And maybe the titties are growing in. I love Simone Biles. She was a Packers fan while her husband, I believe now her husband, played for the Packers. So I'm a big Packer. I'm a big Simone Biles fan, even though now she's a Bears fan. Whatever, it doesn't matter. She's America.
Oh.
And she was one of the wonderful, brave women who put Larry Nassar's disgusting ass in prison.
Yep.
So she pivots from Epstein to Summer Heat, baby. And wasn't that what it was like every single evening in the twilight of the summer months at Epstein Island? Pure and utter summer heat. It is unreal. Everyone that believed that this administration was going to expose anything when it came to Epstein. And I mean, honestly, all of us were kind of like crossing our fingers. We're like, we know this is just political grandstanding. He wants to win an election. All of these people are complicit in disgusting pedophilia rings. But maybe DJT will release what the DOJ has on Epstein. But no.
But he was there.
The case is closed. He was there. He's peppered. He's peppered in there. It's a shotgun blast. Dick Cheney, boom.
Yeah.
My God. All right. Well, speaking of pedophiles, this actually came in from a listener. Thank you so much for shooting this story our way. I want the chat. Anything from the chat thus far?
Johnny saying we know the government lies to us, but damn, they are lying to us now in all caps.
Extra line.
Yeah.
It's extra line.
Yeah.
It's like we know there's mayo on the Wendy's chicken sandwich, but this is like, holy shit. Extra cream.
Yep.
So I want your thoughts on this. A governor in the wonderful state of Idaho, the home of the Koberger murders, which he just signed. We'll talk about that on OK, but he just officially signed his guilty plea. A bill allowing the death penalty for child sex abusers has been signed by Governor Brad Little. Now, I am personally opposed to the death penalty. I have also said this, however, when it comes to pedophiles being sentenced to death, it's not the hill I'm going to die on. Much like Chris Gonzalez, the way that he decided, our listener, the way he decided to die on the hill that balloons are bad. Yeah. I am not going to do that and die on the hill that people who molest children shouldn't be put to death. Yeah. Because it is disgusting. However, again, the question is, should the state have the right to kill citizens? Also, if you are a pedophile, you go to prison. My understanding is it's worse than a death penalty. Speaking of Larry Nassar, every 2 weeks there's a story where that piece of trash was beat up, and it's like,
Thank God.
Good. That's his life in hell now. I almost wonder if death is a reprieve of a sentence, because also you be separated. You know, you're going to be in solitary confinement. You're going to be on death row.
Yeah.
You usually don't have any interaction with inmates, and without the interaction with inmates, that greatly, disables their ability to beat the living fuck out of you.
Yeah. Johnny's saying that there are some special jails for sex offenders in some states. So they must be like very relieved if they get to go to one of those.
Oh, where they're all disgusting?
Yeah, where they're
then
all
they just share stories?
Scumbags. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man.
They're all just lathering each other up.
That's awful. So this was the Idaho Senate bill. It passed. This is Bill 380. And I understand from a legislative point of view, this is a difficult one to vote no on.
Yeah.
When they're like, we're going to kill pedophiles. And you're like,
Wait, all of them?
All of them? Now, I was actually molested by a very nice man. Yeah. You're going to kill him too? It did pass by a vote of 30-5. So there were 5. And again, the 5 aren't wrong from a principled perspective when it comes to how much power do we want to give our government. I don't like the government being able to just kill anybody. And there are people who are incarcerated for things that they didn't do. Yeah. Which we always have to remember. The percentage isn't that large, but they say it can be anywhere from 1% to 5% of people on death row currently that are innocent. And we do have to remember those people. The margins are really the people who fall through the cracks. They live in the margins, and those are the people we like to think about on this show. However, again, this is a difficult situation for a politician to say, let's not kill pedophiles, because if you're just having a conversation in any bar, or if you're a producer and you want to make the new Human Centipede movie, I believe the name of that guy is Tom Six. That's why he created the Human Centipede film.
Shut up.
He literally was at a bar in Germany being like, they should tie mouth to ass for pedophiles. They should tie a mouth to ass and form a large centipede. And then he's like, I'm going to make that movie. So that's
good idea, me.
Good idea, me. Right? Maybe let Hollywood have pedophiles, and then they can do what they will with them. But then again, they'll probably
they'll thrive.
They'll become directors. Yeah. So this is a mandatory minimum sentence of 25 years for people convicted of aggravated lewd conduct with a minor, ages 13 to 16. However, so they're not going to get the death penalty. However, people who are charged with rape of children under the age of 12, which is so disgusting. I hate to, I just always bring it up, but our first foster kids were full of herpes, and it was disgusting what happens to these kids. So under this law, they would face a mandatory 30-year minimum sentence.
Yes.
Or the death penalty. So the bill is brought by a fellow named Bruce Skagg. He's a Republican. He's the bill's sponsor. He argued that Idaho has one of the least harsh states in the nation for sentencing child molesters. So evidently, Idaho was pretty chill. They were hands off, even though the adults were hands on children. Mm-hmm. They were like, okay, so perhaps an overcorrection. But again, at the same time, don't molest children under the age of 12, and you're not really going to have to worry about it. But what does the chat have to say?
I mean, people are saying that they're against the death penalty, but it's hard to not agree with this.
Right. I mean, it's just I'm not losing a friend over this one.
Yeah.
Right? Like, this really, like, if my buddy is like, yeah, string them up, I'm not going to be like, I don't think we can really keep this going.
Yeah, but we talked about this yesterday on OK Bud, where the guy was murdered because he was released after serving 7 years for raping a child.
Yes,
guy
bullshit.
went and killed him because he didn't feel like justice was served. So, I mean...
And then that guy ended up getting life, or he is facing life incarceration.
Exactly. So he's facing a harsher sentence, even though, net positive is something he probably... That transaction. But, I just think they need to come up with more years on the
Just
on the old pedophiles.
Yep, life sentence, that's fine with me. Again, a life sentence is a death sentence because we're not immortal. And once again, to reiterate, being sent into general population, not one of those, apparently they just, not a pedo prison where everyone's the same,
Right.
because then you're arguing over like political stuff, not just like pedophile stuff. Because you delineate in a gen pop prison, you delineate like non-child fucker and child fucker. That's it.
Yeah.
Race out the door. Who cares?
Nothing else.
Gang affiliation. Who gives a fuck? They don't send them to one of those pedo prisons. That sounds like heaven on earth
Yeah,
for
it's
them.
just paradise. They're all just sharing tales.
Except for the smallest guy there, who they keep on calling a teen.
He keeps growing his pubes out
Yeah,
to gross them out.
Grow. I told you to shave, Tammy. No soup for you.
Oh.
Remember the soup Nazi?
Yeah.
No soup for you. So this is according to Abraham Bonowitz. He is one of the directors for Death Penalty Action. They are an organization that has questioned the ethical nature of the death penalty. They say we are talking about asking somebody that young that's already been traumatized deeply to put themselves back through that process, which is interesting to think about, to relive it in front of a whole audience of people against a person who is from their own family in many cases. So they're coming from the perspective of the victim will have to go testify. The victim will be under oath. Courtrooms are cold, nasty places. There's no comforts. And reliving sexual trauma, that ain't going to be easy, especially for a child. We've all been through our own issues, and it's, as a grown-ass man, it's still difficult to talk about some of the things we've had to go through. So, when you're a kid, I could imagine that being re-traumatizing. So from that perspective, that is interesting.
Yeah, and when you're with like an overzealous defense lawyer who's like attacking your credibility,
Sure.
I mean, that's just...
What were you wearing the night of the abuse?
Yeah, they're going to look for any way to get their client
Well,
free.
you were wearing your John Cena outfit, so maybe he just didn't see you.
Yeah.
Okay. A little joke there. So Skog, he goes on to say, but what's more traumatized than being raped violently? That's what this is about. It's for the victim. This bill is a child's bill. It empowers the victim. Death penalty action is also said that the bill could be found unconstitutional by the U.S. Supreme Court. They say the U.S. Supreme Court has not looked favorably at any crime that is not homicide. So perhaps the Supreme Court could take this up and say it is not constitutional, it's cruel and unusual punishment. But again, if you're the Supreme Court, they are made up of human beings. You wonder if this is going to be top docket when they get back to dealing with some of the most important issues facing our nation. And then if also like, oh, you were one of the 9 justices that said the pedophiles are cool, right? Yeah, I don't know. My uncle was one. He was nice. So this is lastly, Skaug says, we want this to go to the Supreme Court so we can change, so that states can opt to have healthy death penalty for these heinous and awful crimes. Have the death penalty for these heinous and awful crimes
Healthy.
against children. So he is for the Death Penalty Action Group. So they do have some concerns, but also overall it seems as if they are in favor of it in this case. So interesting signing coming from Governor Little, which is interesting. His name is Brad Little.
Little.
Yeah. Probably got made fun of a lot for that name. Yeah, you got a little dick, even though it's huge.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, my last name is Little.
Let me see a little dick.
Let me see a little dick. Oh my God, our boy Thomas Dale. Thomas
He's
Dale was
genius. Gay dude that would always say, let me see a little dick.
Let me see a little
So like
dick.
guys would be like, it's not little, I'll show you.
And he would always get to see dick.
Work.
Good God Almighty. All right, let's move on a little bit to Nebraska. I'm actually in agreement with Nebraska on this story. Let's go on to Lincoln, Nebraska. The Nebraska Attorney General's office has said that it has filed a lawsuit against General Motors and OnStar. Many of our cars have OnStar. If you constantly crash your car the way that I do, I've actually used OnStar, and they do show up. I'm not a great driver.
Yeah. You're a good driver. You're just not a good
Parker. Right. Yeah. 1 out of every 10 times I literally crashed my truck. And there's a bunch of scratches on it and shit. And
Fucking dumpster came out of nowhere.
it really did. Honestly, I'm not even joking with you because I had to get Jerry, my dog, who is with me on this show.
Yeah.
I had to pick him up from the vet. And I was taking the left, and there was a dumpster there. And Jerry was jumping around, and I was like, and then all of a sudden, I just scraped that. But I swear to God, the dumpster was on wheels, and I do think it possibly moved.
Ooh.
Nonetheless, OnStar might seem like a nice program. Hey, you got a flat tire, you need a little help, call OnStar. Well, it turns out they have been collecting, processing, and selling your sensitive data without consent or knowledge of the consumer.
Wow.
Us. So, according to State Attorney General Mike Hilgers, he has accused GM and OnStar of installing telematics systems in their vehicles that collect data, including speed, seatbelt usage, driving habits, and location. That data has then been sold to third-party data brokers. So they're making money off of our actions. If you're going to do this, I want my money.
Yeah.
I want a kickback. If every time I put my seatbelt on or don't put my seatbelt on or speed or don't speed or fart, I want you to pay me if you're giving that data to somebody because you're building your algorithm off of our labor.
Yeah, exactly.
In this case,
I am the product.
I am the product.
Yeah.
So insurance companies have then been taking this data, and this is where it gets very nefarious. They've been taking this data and they've been using it to what? Raise your rates.
Oh, you scumbags.
They're never using it to lower your rates.
No.
You can't be like, they drive perfect, the seatbelt's always on, blinkers are always working. They don't fart, actually. They never eat in their car. Your rate isn't going to go lower.
Right.
It'll just stay the same, which is already too high. But God forbid you do anything because you're a human being, and sometimes you've got to have, things aren't perfect in life. Sometimes you can't put your seatbelt on because you're rushing your freaking dog to the ER like I did. So they're going to raise the rates, deny coverage, or even cancel policies. Nebraska drivers were never informed of this data collection, and they did not know it could be used against them. These are the key allegations, and this is huge. I mean, this stuff fucking drives me nuts.
Yeah.
You know, that's with Tesla. I hate to break it to you. First of all, Teslas are large batteries, and when you're in them, I think you're going to get a new kind of cancer.
Oh, shit.
Which will be exciting for everybody. And just because you take the T off the truck, it's a Tesla. We all know it's Tesla. So just leave it on there.
Yeah.
It really doesn't matter. But Tesla, why were they able to map the world so quickly? Because that's what you are driving.
Yeah.
You're literally driving a mapping tool for Tesla. The car is second. It's a data company. Mm-hmm. It's a software company. It's not a car company.
Right.
So, according to the key allegations, GM deceived consumers at the point of sale by misrepresenting the nature and the scope of the OnStar connected services. Consumers were often misled into believing enrollment in OnStar was mandatory to access basic safety features. GM failed to adequately disclose that enrollment in its mobile apps or connected vehicle services would allow the company to collect and sell detailed personal data. And lastly, dealership employees were incentivized to enroll customers without proper disclosure and in some cases without obtaining any consent whatsoever.
Wow.
So I am for this lawsuit. I'm assuming this is a conservative state house, but they got this one right. It is horrible that these corporations are secretly recording all of our moves and then using those recordings that we don't know are taking place to mess with our bills at the end of the month.
Yeah. Progressive was doing that for a while too, but they at least sold it as a product. They said, hey, take our tracker, put it in your car.
There
We'll
are
give you
advertisements.
Yeah.
Yes.
We'll give you a lower rate. This is just complete fuckery.
According to Attorney General Hilgers, He says, Nebraskans deserve to work with companies that are truthful and honest. But what they are doing, that is not what happened here. And we filed this lawsuit because one large company decided that it wouldn't honestly tell Nebraskans that their data was being used to impact their insurance rates. That is wrong. Our office will hold companies that mislead Nebraskans accountable, no matter how large. And you don't want to mislead a Nebraskan.
Don't you dare mess with our Nebraskans.
They are big Midwest people.
Yeah.
And they have nothing but Cornhusker football.
Yeah, and now you're saying they're messing with your truck?
Bro, they got time. They don't even have a baseball team. They have nothing but time. Literally, it's college football, and they're not even good.
Right.
So they're going to be pissed.
Yep. You're in trouble.
It's not much going on. So watch out, Nebraska, or watch out any company trying to fuck with Nebraska.
Yeah. But this isn't even going to stop any company from ever trying this again, because whatever their fees are that they have to pay out in a class action, it pales in comparison to how much they made anyway.
True. Yeah, that's very true. And they're
Brutal.
going to continue to try. But we just want transparency. And it's just disgusting that, again, all of this data mining is done with us. That is, we are required in this process, and we don't get a kickback. Maybe sell me the car for half price then.
Right.
You know, sure, whatever. But of course, this is why a man I interviewed who kind of went off the rails a little bit, but Andrew Yang,
Oh, yeah.
when he was running, I interviewed him on my old show, Abe Lincoln's Top Hat, which that interview is still there. All those old episodes are still there. So go check them out, even though whatever, it doesn't matter. I don't care who you support. The content is fantastic because it's mine.
There you go.
And my content's amazing. Right. But that was one of the things that he was talking about when it comes to a universal basic income. You know, all of these corporations are using our data. You know, all of the social media websites that every one of us use, all of it is us. We're the only reason they're making money.
Right.
And now in this economy where AI is taking over, as a matter of fact, Microsoft and OpenAI just signed a new deal with classrooms. So it's going to be in every classroom.
Oh, wow.
Basically in America. So teachers are sort of putting themselves out of work, which that is the next step, I suppose.
You always have to train your replacement.
You always do. We'll talk about maybe that story next episode more in length. But it's interesting. AI it's taking its tentacles and putting them everywhere. So now that this happens, where more and more jobs are becoming obsolete, fast food workers, so on and so forth, a UBI might be the only possible option to have a society that can have any money whatsoever, which is called an economy. So then we can, trade goods. If no one has any cash, we're all fucked.
Yeah.
Any comments?
Chris was asking, didn't Roomba get in trouble for selling people's layouts of their houses?
Roomba did also.
Wow.
Yep, and I don't know exactly what happened with that. Do you want to see if they settled that lawsuit? Because I remember that, and that is so invasive. Yeah, they were selling literally, and they were talking. I believe it broke down people's houses.
Holy shit.
Yes, I mean, it basically could tell you every single place where a person liked to hang out, what they were doing, how many times they jordaned it.
Let's see.
Yeah, Roomba's unbelievable. So it's very interesting what happens with technology and how they use us and anything with the Roomba lawsuit.
It does seem like, there was a couple different ones.
Okay.
But then they sued over patents and stuff like that too. But I mean, it says they're making a privacy mess with plans to sell home data. That's just so crazy.
It is disgusting. All right, before we get to the final story, I want to talk about the Senate Democrats. I agree with the Senate Democrats on this issue. Senate Democrats are pressing ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, of course, on why are they masking their officers and why is there not a common uniform? This has been so scary for so many people across the country. We've covered some of these stories on OK Bud, where people are getting detained by folks who are pretending to be ICE. Somebody was actually killed by somebody pretending to be ICE.
Yep.
Because they're covering their faces like they're Antifa.
Yeah.
Like they're Antifa, the people that they supposedly rage against. And then they're just dressing. It's pretty much just black garb.
Right.
a little SS to say the least. But a letter was sent from the Senate Democrats, and this is a letter, guys, okay? So it's a pretty big deal. It's my one, that's why I'm like, I agree with the Senate Democrats, and then it's like a letter was sent. Oh, wow. A whole letter? You guys penned a letter?
In cursive?
Jesus, not even in cursive, brick lettering. But nonetheless, they are right. I just wish they were more aggressive. They sent a letter. They sent it to acting ICE Director Todd Lyons, not Homan, who is on all the television shows, Tom Homan. This is the ICE Director Todd Lyons. A group of Democrats argued that masks and lack of uniforms have led to chaos, specifically in places like Los Angeles. The letter also accused ICE of seeking to meet arbitrary quotas set by a toadstool, Stephen Miller, who is getting everything he wants from Donald Trump. This is what the letter says that the Democrats wrote. We write regarding the apparent they're so weak. We write regarding the apparent widespread violations of historical norms and traditions in U.S. Tell them that you're fucking being assholes.
Yeah.
So, and customs enforcement ICE operations in Los Angeles and across the country by engaging in law enforcement activities, including arrests, without wearing identifying uniforms and well masked. It's kidnapping. That's what it looks like to me.
Yeah.
And again, if you are someone who is approached by anyone in a van where a bunch of people jump out and they're wearing masks and they got their black, again, faux military uniform on, and they say they're ICE, you're going to go with them because you're scared shitless.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, you're being human trafficked, your organs are gone, your butthole's bleeding. I mean, it's awful. The group added, as ICE engages in unprecedented numbers of immigration raids across the country, reportedly in response to arbitrary quotas set by White House Chief of Staff, it is crucial that ICE personnel not engage in conduct that is all but guaranteed to sow chaos and confusion and put law enforcement officers in danger. The letter was signed by a bunch of Democrats. Again, they should be doing a fuck ton more than writing a letter, but they are correct.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why ICE is the only agency where everybody gets to cover their face. They don't have to give a badge number. You don't have to know who they are. And they don't have a uniform. Even people working at Arby's, which we're going to also talk about on OK Bud, because there's a lot of Arby's stands out there who are pissed at Kyle.
Yeah.
Every company, you have to have a uniform. My dad was a truck driver. He had a very profound uniform. He looked very good. He smelled like Stetson.
Nice.
CCX, Conway Central Express, which has now changed company, but I forget who it is now. So anyway, Senate Democrats, do more than write a letter, please, because it's horrifying, it's scary, and what we're seeing on the streets of America looks straight out of a documentary, again, as Chris Christopherson said in the last episode, from Nazi Germany.
Yeah, and they're outsourcing so many of their
Yes, they
officers too. So like you could literally just get a costume from Amazon and just wear it and go out there and get people.
Also, these people, you thought that cops were upset because they couldn't become firefighters, so they had to be cops. This is ICE, so they're like, it's just trickling down.
Yeah.
And the shit is rolling downhill. Okay, lastly, speaking of shit, what does thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dead Gazans get you? A Nobel Peace Prize nomination.
Oh.
Benjamin Netanyahu, this is why we wanted to wait for today to do this episode. He went to the White House for a dinner. I wonder if they ate pork. Netanyahu nominated Donald Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize. We've got the clip, and wow, it's powerful. These two fat fucks sitting there at the table, eating, dressed to the nines as people are suffering because of their rules. Well, you know what? My Lord, if Obama can get one, why not Donald? Let's play Netanyahu.
I want to express the appreciation and admiration not only of all Israelis, but of the Jewish people and many, many admirers around the world for your leadership of the free world, your leadership of a just cause, and the pursuit of peace and security which you are leading in many lands, but now especially in the Middle East. He's forging peace as we speak.
No.
In one country, in one region after the other. So I want to present to you, Mr. President, the letter I sent to the Nobel Prize Committee. It's nominating you for the Peace Prize, which is well deserved, and you should get it.
Thank you very much. This I didn't know. Wow. Thank you very much. Coming from you in particular, this is very meaningful. Thank
Oh
you very
my
much.
God.
Thank you for everything you do.
God.
Wow, if Trump had the same throat as Debbie does Dallas, he'd be coming right now because Netanyahu's cock is so far down his throat, he could bleed, he could shit come. So it is heinous, disgusting, stupid, and of course, when it comes to Netanyahu, as we talked about on episode or the episode before, he's the one who killed Rabin, the only man in Israel leadership in the 90s that actually wanted peace. Netanyahu is a professional shit stirrer. He's the reason we went into Iraq. He's the reason that we have had so many wars in the Middle East. He's the reason that Iran is right on the precipice of getting a nuclear weapon, even though I don't think they're fucking close.
No.
And certainly not anymore. All right, let's go to the comments lastly.
Okay. Chris is saying Simone Biles from Columbus, Ohio. Boom, take that.
Hey, I don't mind. It's not that. I just don't like pieces of shit from Columbus, Ohio, who are backstabbing fucks.
Yeah. Also, Ohio has the highest rate of anyone who's been born in that state. They have the most astronauts from that state. So they want to leave the planet in Ohio.
Take that.
So it's not just us that don't like it.
Classic joke. Love that.
I love a good class action lawsuit, but I love a good class action lawsuit. I enjoy getting random checks or debit cards for like $16 to $39 randomly.
Well, I was about to be a part of a class action lawsuit against Rolling Stone for that bullshit fucking hit piece that was not even close to accurate about anything,
Right.
which I'm going to actually talk about. I'm going to do a podcast this week and talk about that because I just don't give a fuck anymore.
Yeah.
And but then the editor of that got fired. So then Rolling Stone was like, well, we fired the editor, so then everything fell apart. I wanted to check.
The owner of Rolling Stone got fired. It's just
The head editor,
everybody.
It doesn't matter. Anything for clickbait.
Yeah. Vanessa said, Ben, landing a plane is probably more important than flying, right?
No.
Same concept, smaller scale for your truck.
Whoa.
Saying you can't
I didn't
park.
know I was on the front lines of attack.
Yep, you're there.
Wow. Yeah, also I think flying is fuck. Flying, they're both important. But yeah, you do make a valid point.
Yeah. Pano said that he would love Roomba to give him a map of his floor plan every year so he can see how things have changed over the years.
Oh, that would be nice.
Yeah. And then people were saying that it also could help firefighters when they're going into a place that they don't know.
That is true.
So everything can be used for good.
And yes, it can. I think everything is 5% of everything is being used for good.
Yeah.
We talked about technology with AI. There was that surgery where the surgeons were here in America and the surgery took place in Africa and they saved a man's life. There are good things happening.
Yeah.
We just have to be aware of the bad things as well because that's where you really make a lot of money, seemingly.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Thank you for listening. Can you go, if you're watching on Spotify now, click that button, that follow button, leave some comments. Let's get this thing rolling.
Yeah.
It is the greatest political show going today, and we're going to keep on growing. And yeah, what was I going to say? Love yourself, be yourself, hail yourself. I'm doing 3 now. Isn't that nice? Love yourself, be yourself, hail yourself.
Benny Winfrey.
I'll eat some fucking cheesecake. All right, hail yourself. Bye.
Bye.